The Weekly Harvest, an in-depth look at the Brandon Wheat Kings and the WHL.
Washman trying to come up with it for Allison. Here's Allison right in front. He scores!
Brandon Junior hockey fans, you've waited 2 decades for this. In the league's 50th anniversary, your Wheat Kings are the champions. Yeah, I'm back. I might fall asleep halfway through. Dinger's going to have to keep me entertained. I pushed it right from Toronto all the way to Verdun. I left yesterday at 7 in the morning, stopped for a couple of short naps in a couple of Walmart parking lots along the way, but I got home around noon today and real excited to have a guy that, you know, I grew up watching. You mentioned, Chris, our generation of guys who grew up coming to the rink and hoping to see him get into a scrap and run down to the glass and try and be a part of it. So looking forward to it. And I think a lot of fans are as well. I know a lot of people said early on that we have to get Dinger on, and glad that he made time for us tonight. Okay. Well, Chris, glad to have you with us. I see that you're kind of out on your back porch. You got a bunch of kids running around your house. What have you been up to during this whole COVID process?
I've been working. I've been changing diapers and working. So moved back a couple years back to Edmonton from Tampa and helping my brother-in-law with his company sell gloves. And we actually moved warehouses. So that was quite interesting. I learned how to drive a forklift. So I'm actually pretty good driving a forklift now. I only dumped one pallet over, but so we're not, it's kind of like, it felt like, I remember Ace Ventura at the start where he's kicking the box down the hallway. He's like, special delivery coming through, and he's booting it down. I did that to one pallet. So thank goodness we're dealing with with gloves that are supposed to protect your hands. So if we're dealing with fragile stuff, that would have been a little more messier. But yeah, so we've just been doing that. Kids started skating a little bit a couple weeks ago, doing some training. So been biking. I did a podcast a couple weeks back, and there's a couple big hills, actually hard to believe, in Edmonton, the River Valley. And I went up the one hill, and then I went up another hill, and I wasn't going to get off. It's super steep, and a lot of people get off their bike, and I have a lot of pride, and I didn't want to lose my kids. So I was like, I'm not getting off my bike, and I didn't. And literally my lungs are still burning. So I was coughing for like 3 days, and I was doing this pod, and I was hacking. It was just still burning. And I said, listen, like, I'm not sick. It's not COVID. I just, like, my lungs are burning so bad from trying to keep up with my kids. So I still have a little bit. So I clear my throat quite often. People look at me like, I'm like, no, I got tested. I'm okay. It's the lungs burning. It's not the other bad thing. It's just really, really, I'm too heavy, and I need to lose a couple pounds, but I still work out hard to try and keep up with my kids. So.
Okay, so you were a tough guy. I've had a lot of tough buddies take the COVID test and come back and say that it darn near buckled them to their knees. For those that haven't had it, what was the effect on tough guy Chris Dingman? Were you gripping the chair a little tight?
No, not bad. I've had about 10 root canals, and then like the first few I had were in Brandon. I got cross-checked in the mouth, and then those 2 teeth got knocked back. They ended up getting, I don't know, I guess they knocked out or loosened even more, and got to the point where I was doing root canals. I'd literally like fall asleep during the root canal, and the dentist was kind of like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Whatever." So I don't know. Pain is my friend, my enemy. I guess see all the above. So I felt worse. I felt better. So somewhere in between. So. Not that bad.
I just put my headphone on just to catch the end of that. I don't know what the question was, but it must have been about your pain tolerance. That's incredible. I'm going to quickly ask Aaron Bull, who, thanks to Aaron for keeping us honest here. I don't know what happened, but apparently I did not have sound. I think I do now. Yeah, okay. I do hear myself. There we go. So quickly again, everybody, thank you for tuning on in. Episode 29 of the Weekly Harvest. It is on the Q Country YouTube page. Again, appreciate you listening. You can catch up on all the previous episodes, qcountryfm.ca, always streaming live at 91.5. Apologies for that, Chris. But so we get back into it. So I'm assuming Crowe was talking about how tough you were back in the day and about the reputation, because that is one of my favorite things, the stories, is growing up in Russell a couple hours away. I mean, we didn't get to go to Jets games when we were kids. We got to come in and get to watch Wheat King games, and you got to do a couple a year. And what was it like when you're at that age? Because you would have a lot of those young fans like idolizing you. And I mean, now as we get older and we're looking, we're like, oh, they're just kids. But when I was 12 and you were 16, it was like you were like a god out there. What was that like, honestly, like playing in a small town and having that kind of a following?
Well, I didn't know I was a god, so thank you for that.
Great, you're pumping his tires, Falko.
All right, yeah, you should be my agent, man. I got to move back there. You should move down. It was great. I mean, my experience there was great. I mean, just so many stories about, everyone thinks playing hockey is easy and it's, piece of cake and this and that. And there's just so many things, like riding a bus, 27 hours back from the West Coast trip, or, whatever. And fighting was part of my game, and people appreciated it. And I just knew people enjoyed it. And on my billets, Kelly and Donna Ham, and they had small kids when I moved in. Their kids were 3 and 5, and I had an older sister. And I wasn't used to having small kids around. So as hockey guys, we, girls too, you have your pregame nap. And I tell you, like, I owe a lot of my fights to the kids, to the Ham kids, because they're little rambunctious. So I'd lay down for my nap, and man, I just hear these feet, and it was just like, I'm like, be quiet, and I'm screaming upstairs, and then I get up and I'd just be like, just surly. And as soon as I left the door, as I was walking out, my billets were like, he's going to kill somebody tonight. So I was already on edge. I got woken up, but you wake somebody up from their pregame nap, you're fired up. So I owe a lot of that to them, because I had an edge for sure. I was leaving and I was mad. And as soon as somebody hit me the wrong way, I just wanted to pound somebody, because I was a little crusty from getting woken up. So, but it was good. I mean, it was, I went back, I've been back a couple times, and, people, I got a standing ovation when I dropped the puck for the Memorial Cup there. I almost started crying, because, you think, you have a connection with fans, and it's been a long time. And obviously I'm quite older now, as you can see by all the salt that's taken over from the pepper and the beard there. But it was great. I mean, I enjoyed my time there. It was so many good stories, so many good friends. So it was awesome. But thank you. I didn't realize the word God. I'll take it, though. I wish I got paid like a god in the NHL, but I appreciate it. No, it was great. It was. The fans are awesome.
What was your first memory of coming to the city?
I think meeting my billets. You go in and you go meet them, and my dad drove me, and it's kind of like, hey, here's this family, and you're going to live with them. And it's super scary. And talking to, your billets after, and they were like freaked out too, because they had this 6'3", 220 something pound mutant like moving in their house. And it's like, oh God, what do we tell this guy? So I remember that. And then I just remember meeting Bobby Lowe's, and I had, so I was a drummer, music kind of guy. And so I had 3 earrings down on the bottom. I had one up top, because I thought it was pretty cool. And I walked in, and Bobby took one look at me, and it was, I can't say exactly what he said, but it was, you don't think you're keeping those effing things, do you? And I was like, I don't know. So he's like, no, if you're going to stay here. And I was like, okay, guess they're coming out. So those are 2 memories. Meeting Bobby was, Kelly Crimmins, obviously a legend. But just, Bobby set the tone right away. It was, you're not keeping those things. Okay, this is how it's going to work. And it was great. He was a fiery guy. So that was the first, like, okay, this is just like, I had a coach in midget. Murray Banks, he was fiery too. So I've had a few guys, and, he'd throw the garbage can and yell and scream. And, so I was a little prepared for coaches that were fiery. And I love Bobby as a coach, but that was, I just remember that you're not keeping those things, whatever. And I was like, okay, guess we're taking these out. So little humility right away.
Where would Coach Bobby Lowe's rate on your list of fiery coaches that you've had? Because you played for a couple in the NHL too.
Oh man, I got 3 tied for number 1. Him, John Tortorella, and Brian Sutter. So just different. They're all passionate guys. Let's just say that. So they're great. Like the thing I liked, so people always ask me about coaches, and you know what I appreciate about Bobby is that you're a young guy, and you know everybody's insecure. You know when you play hockey, and even in the NHL, guys are you're unsure of yourself, and you know, and especially when you're a teenager playing junior, and you know Bobby would yell at everybody, and John Tortorella would yell at everybody, and Brian Sutter would yell at everybody. So coaches like that, I appreciate that. So those three guys were definitely pretty intense. Like Bobby was definitely, Losey was, he was up there for sure. Cause he, man, we got in, we got in with the timekeeper one time in Moose Jaw when we scored, and it was like literally 3 seconds ago, and we score and the light goes on, and then the guy so we score, and then the timekeeper waited like till the buzzer went, and then he threw the light on, and it was clear it was a goal to tie the game. And God, Bobby's losing his mind. He goes over, and I got him in a headlock, and he wiggles, and I'm on skates, and Bobby's like, you know, he walks around about 5'10", Losey. And I got him in a headlock, and he wiggles his head around. He turns, I'm like 16 or 17. He turns around and looks at me and goes, "Dinger, if you don't let go right now, I'm going to sucker you." And I was like, okay. So he went over to the timekeeper, you know. Way we went, that was one of the many brawls we had. So he's like, whatever. So, yeah, we had a few. So those are three guys for sure that were definitely fiery. Let's say passionate.
So 1991, you were drafted to the Bantam draft. That was also the year I was born. Sort of put that into perspective. Now in my 5th year as a radio guy. But you were drafted by Seattle. Now, I imagine being an Edmonton guy at that time, the Oil Kings had left. The Ice may not have been back or may have been just kind of on the outskirts. But, you know, all of a sudden you go from, you think a first-round pick, you're heading to Seattle, the big city, to ending up in Brandon. So what was that transition? I know that, you know, Perry Bergson, we talked to him from the Brandon Sun. He had a quote from you saying that you were almost ready to quit when you got traded to Brandon. What was your thought process there?
Well, it's not like today where I didn't really know I was getting scouted or people were watching me. Like, I was just playing hockey, and we get drafted. And, you know, I remember Seattle had the Memorial Cup. They were the hosts, and so they flew myself and my parents out. And, you know, I'm a music guy. I like country music, but I'm more of a metal. Like heavy metal is my go-to. And so, and then alternative music. So Seattle, home of grunge and stuff. And I just remember I went out for the Memorial Cup, and I got a pair of gloves and some wood sticks. I think I got like 6 wood sticks, which was huge. Like, because it felt cool, because, you know, like sticks are expensive and whatever. So I remember I went to the Memorial Cup, and then so we came back literally 2 days later. I get a phone call from Kelly McCrimmon, and it's, you know, "Hey, Chris, this is Kelly McCrimmon from the Brandon Wheat Kings. We just acquired your rights." I'm like, "What does that mean?" Like, I had no idea. So it was shocking, let's just say. So, you know, we're like, okay, what does this mean? And then so we literally pull out like the atlas and look, and like Brandon, Manitoba, like 42,000 people. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, you're going from Seattle, like 1 million plus or whatever, and big city. And, you know, like, and the worst thing at the time is you think the team doesn't want you. Like, you know, I thought I was no good, and Seattle didn't want me. And then you realize after the fact, it's, you know, Brandon wanted me. And I actually ran into the old GM for the Seattle Thunderbirds at a game in Tampa a few years back, and he introduced himself and said, "You know what, I'm still pissed at Kelly. Like, you were supposed to be available." So like he pulled one over on us. So, you know, that was I mean, it turned out great. Like, you obviously had 4 great years in Brandon, but you know, at the time you think they don't want you, and, you know, whatever. And so, you know, it's like, I remember, so my parents were like, "Just go try it." Just go, and then if you don't like it, you can come home. And obviously I went, and I really enjoyed myself. But you just, you know, you don't think somebody else wants you. You think that team didn't want you. So you learn these things later. But yeah, that was definitely a bit of a surprise, but worked out great.
We talked about Wade Redden's, you know, success that he had, and of course, a former teammate of yours. He talked about how he never really had to be that big, tough defenseman, because it didn't matter if someone messed with him. There was a big 22 coming flying into the pile, and he felt safe out there. At what point did you realize that when you were out there, your teammates had a little more room and maybe a little more confidence? Was that the way you had always played, going back to when you were a kid? Were you always the bigger kid of the group?
Yeah, I was, let's just say, really large for my age in my whole life. I guess like in Pee Wee, it was like Pee Wee or Bantam, where I hit a kid and the dad came out on the ice and he's like screaming at me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 12 or something. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So I'm holding my stick. Like, if I got to chop this guy, well, but I'm scared, you know. like scared, you know what? And my dad jumped out of the stands and came and like literally jumped out of it and then grabbed him by the throat. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go near my son again." I will, you know what? I'm like, "Oh crap!" And then we get in the car and he's like, "Yeah, do you want to go for a Slurpee and a bag of chips?" So I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Gotta word your mom." I was like, "Okay." But anyway, so once body contact started, then I was playing midget AAA as a 15-year-old, and I got in my first fight playing there, and I was like, I did good. So then your first year, like my parents were adamant that I like the word goon, like that's just a whatever, but they wanted me to be a player, and Kelly, said, we don't want him here just to fight, but it was part of my game. So I guess long answer was that so you get in your first fight and you do good, and then you get in your next fight and you do good, and I guess maybe it was like my third year where I was playing with Marty Murray and Darren Ritchie, and I literally, except for being back, who's God rest his soul, super tough guy, and every time we went to stats get to it, I know I was fighting him or Dallas or a combination or whatever. But it was like my third year where it's like basically if anybody touched him, I just pounded somebody, and I just literally just beat people up, and it's fine. Like, it's bad, like, you know what I mean, looking back. But I remember we got in a brawl in Regina where they were talking about, and like we went on the ice and we weren't allowed to go till someone else, because it was like back then the first guy off the bench got suspended. I remember grabbing. I went to Marty's guy and I grabbed him, and I was going to pound him. Marty's like, "I got this." So I hold his guy, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not so tough now, huh?" And then so he like smacks him around, and then I go and grab Rich's guy, and he's like, "No, I got this." So I'm holding Rich's guy, and he's like, "Yeah, what do you think about that?" And I saw some of the video, and I don't know. I must have fought like 7 or 8 guys or something, and went a little crazy. We went in the stands, and Bobby. So after all that, I got 1 game, and Bobby got 1 game, and so I guess kind of combination of those things. But a good story about that I never had heard before. But like, so my dad was in the stands, and he got in a fight. Marty's dad, but Rick Dillabo was like, he's a great guy. I was coming through town last spring with my youngest to go to that Western Canadian Invitational or something in Winnipeg. And so Rich was like, telling my son, he's like, your dad was a little crazy. Like, he was, used to fight a lot. And my kids have seen my fights and stuff and whatever, and they know, and it's not a big deal, whatever. And they're already better skaters and better stick handlers. They could toe drag. I could never toe drag. But Dilly was telling the story. He's like, yeah, what's funny about it? Because we were talking about the brawl in Regina. And he goes, Dilly goes, what's funny? He goes, he's like, grown men are sprinting up the aisle. And he's like, I couldn't figure out where they're going. Then they come back down double fisted with 2 sodas or pops, whatever country you live in. He's like, literally grown men were sprinting up the aisle so they could run back down and throw them at you. And he's like, I thought it was just the craziest thing. Number 1. He goes, number 2, they didn't close the concessions. It was at the end of the game. They're like, we're 15 minutes past the end of the game in the brawl. So I guess it was maybe like probably my 3rd year where, and then my 4th year was just, I played with, primarily I played with Kelly Smart and Peter Schaefer, and Shafes would just run his mouth. Like, we'd play Swift Current, and it was just like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. And I was standing right there. So, I was like, I liked sticking up for people that were smaller, I guess. Redsy's got to give himself credit. Redsy's a tough kid, too. Like, he, the Western League and junior, your skill guys, like, they always got into 1 or 2, like Marty, Darren, like all those guys, all the skill guys, always got into 1 or 2 fights a year. So, Redsy was a tough customer, too. He got in some good scraps. So, but yeah, there's, I guess, maybe just 2nd, 3rd year where, okay, I'm pretty good at this. And there was I think I won, I got voted most intimidating or something fighter the 1 year. So I was kind of proud of that. So, yeah, I guess maybe that's, it's kind of a long answer, but maybe 2nd, 3rd year. I don't know, 1st year.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and in that, I mean, you sure talked about like a lot of skilled guys that you played with as well. I mean, and that was part of your role, right? Like, you're playing with them, you're helping give them some room while playing your style. But of all those guys, who do you think was the most skilled at that age?
Oh, a junior. That's a tough one. Well, I think Barney Murray was just a great player. Darren Ritchie could shoot the puck. I mean, Mike Dubinsky was a really talented player. Peter Schaefer was really crafty with the puck. I mean, so many guys. Mike Leclerc was a good player. Brian McCabe when he came through. It's really hard to pinpoint, but I just think playing with like Marty, the way Muzz played, I think just a talented guy. And then Shapes later on in my career, he was just so good with the puck. He was so shifty. So, and obviously, like Wade Redden was a great defenseman. So it's really tough to to say, but I'd say the top two would probably be Marty Murray and Peter Schaefer.
Obviously, you touched on your kids. Now, both of your older boys, they're pretty good hockey players. You posted some good videos, and you coached a little bit as well. And I talked with Aaron Rome when he first got on board with the Wheat Kings as assistant coach after he retired, and Romer said it was always weird when his son's friends would come over and they wanted to just ask him questions about playing in the NHL and wanted to said, I watched this YouTube video of your dad last night. He said it kind of got weird. Was there ever any funny moments where your kids' friends wanted to just sit around the table with you and not play with your kids?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. We grew up, my kids, we grew up in Tampa, and I coached them in, multiple years. Well, basically last year was the first year I didn't coach my oldest, and then this year I'm going to retire for a year and just be a parent. So, but it was every year there wasn't ever, we had kids sleep over all the time because Florida, Tampa, the kids were spread out. Like it wasn't like you played in your little quadrants or your little section of the city. We had kids from I think the closest kid on our team was like 20 minutes away. So we had kids sleep over all the time. We'd take them to games and stuff. And there wasn't ever like they didn't want to play. I always played with them. Like I like having kids sleep over because we play street hockey. We play basketball, whatever. And so it was great. There was never anything like that, but it was always like, so what was it like fighting so-and-so or what was it, whatever. Everyone always asked me about fighting Char. So you fought Char, how'd that go? I'm like, not very good because I wanted to get inside on him. And I was like, I had it planned. It was on an icing and I went really close. I'm like, hey, we're going. And the ref's like, no, you're not fighting. And then Char dropped his gloves and went like this. And when Char does that, you're pretty much, you're screwed. So yeah, I was like, they're like, how was it fighting him? I'm like, not very good. Like I'm standing there and take about 4 or 5. But I'm like, I didn't break my nose or anything. So it was, but Redzi tell you he was the one that broke my nose? That's why it's so crooked. He probably left that part out, didn't he?
Yeah. What was that story?
It was my last regular season game, my last year, my 4th year. We were playing. If we won, I think we would finish first overall. So Reggie takes a slap shot, and just King hits me right in the nose, and wasn't his fault though. Got tipped, so but he shot it, and he shot it hard enough to break my nose. I was standing in front. I think the goalie was Roddy Branch. It's like, Dinger, take a knee. I'm like, why? He's like, Dinger, take a knee. I'm like, why? I look down and my nose is just leaking. I'm like, okay. So I go in and the doctor was like, okay, your nose is broken. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, you got to snap it back into place. I'm like, okay. What are you going to do? And she was like doing this, like, and I'm like, just snap it, like. So anyways, she's like, and I'm like, just snap it. So she goes, okay. And she's like, so she goes, snaps it back and looks at me. And I'm like, okay. And then I had 2 stitches and then you come back out with 2 pieces of cotton. And so I ended up scoring and we finished first. And I think it was finished first overall. So we had home ice. But the best, like one of the best things I heard was when I came back on the bench. And this meant a lot to me, being a captain and a leader and trying to set examples. That one of the guys said, I told you he was coming back. So that was a proud moment for me. But Reggie can shoot the puck. So he kept it low. Someone else tipped it. So, yeah, that was my last game. So then we had our team picture. So if I don't know if you noticed, the one year I kind of had I shaved down to the handlebar mustache, which I don't look very good in a mustache. And I had a little shiner. So I had a shiner from the broken nose. So I was Wade Redden's slap shot. That's why it's so crooked.
That kind of ties into my next question because I asked current Wheat King head coach Dave Lowry what his worst injury was when he played. And he said back in Florida, there was a D-man. He always shot high. And Dave had said to him one time, you got to keep it down. Well, about 2 days later, he rifled one and it hit Dave square in the face, cracked his whole orbital bone and everything. And 2 days later, that guy got traded. But that reminded me of, Dave and the Wheat King connections to the NHL. Now, obviously, you and Dave went head-to-head throughout your career. Arguably, the biggest peak of that head-to-head matchup would have been in that Stanley Cup run in 2004. Chris wants to talk about 2001, but for me, 2004 was a great year as a Canadian hockey fan, cheering for Calgary. We're all cheering against you guys in Tampa, but for you, what do you remember about playing against current Wheat King coach Dave Lowry?
He had the best beard. I had my beard's a little grayer now, but I had a kind of pretty good red beard, and his was just massive. So there's him and Commodore had a pretty good one too, but his was just huge. And he was like just a veteran guy, I guess is the best way to put it. So, the NHL had those guys like him and Brian Scrudland and those veteran guys that were just good defensively, could kill penalties, were good at the young guys. So, and he was hard to play against. So, when you win, obviously I wanted to win. And didn't want to lose. And there were so many good guys on the other side there. Like Jerome McGinley was a guy that I have the utmost respect for. And, I felt bad shaking his hand because, he almost single-handedly willed that team. And Kiprusoff obviously was a great goalie, but Stefan Yell was another guy I played with who was a good veteran guy. But as far as Lowry goes, yeah, he had a really, really good beard. He had a solid, big red beard. He was hard to play against because I think at that time he was probably in mid-30s, I think, maybe getting up there. So, I had respect for those veteran guys. I remember one time, like, there was another guy, Brendan Shanahan, and Jeff Odgers, who was a Wheat King guy, and he wanted to kill Aaron Ward. So he's like, I'm going after him. You make sure, give me some space. So I was like, okay. And I grabbed Brendan Shanahan. I didn't want to fight Brendan Shanahan. He had one of those old CCM helmets with the, the bumpers on the rubber bumpers on the side. So we dropped the gloves, and I'm like trying to rip his helmet. I didn't really want to fight him. And he's like, if you break I've had this helmet for 20 years or 15 years, you break this helmet, I'm going to be pissed. And I'm like, I don't even want to fight you, man. Like, I have respect for you or whatever. So anyways, things you have to do to play in the show and stay in the show. But Lowry, great beard. Just I wish if you could find a picture, put it up on your website, because his beard, I had a pretty good one, but his trumped mine.
We'll have to do that. We'll also have to remind the listeners, if they haven't heard the Dave Lowry podcast, go back and listen to it, because you talked about kind of his age at that time. That was a very fun time in his career, because he didn't know he was actually going to be playing even going into the playoffs. He thought he was done, and he was doing more with the coaching staff. But anyway, that was a great story he was telling as well. Like Crowe said, we want to talk about both runs. I want to go back to even before we talk about 01 though, let's jump back in time. I want to talk about your WHL run. What do you remember from that WHL championship?
I remember winning, and it was like a...
Do you remember the bus trip home?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
I've heard some stories.
20 hours, eh?
Yes.
I think it was like 18 or 20 hours, and so we had a few beverages we were allowed, and our old trainer, Spike, he fell asleep, so someone did a little Sharpie on him, so he came off the bus. He had a little bit of Sharpie on his face. He was a little salty about that, but that's why you don't fall asleep on the bus. But anyways, no, it was just great. It was, that bus was, it was dirty. It was dusty, but it was like, I think the bus was made, the original one was in 72, the one I played 4 years on. And, when you're a rookie, so like my first year, Darren Drager was a radio guy. So he was like, I had to sit next to him. Poor Drags, man. Like he's against the wall and I'm against him. He's like this, like, oh my God, I got this mutant next to me and you got to sleep, like, try and sleep anyways. And then when you actually get a bunk and like I have wide shoulders. So the beauty of me is I could turn sideways and my shoulders would lodge in the bunk. So I didn't have to worry about falling out. There's always the odd guy. I don't know if it was that, coming back from winning that championship, but like just winning was great. But there was a couple guys that literally like, you'd hear like, what the heck? You turn to look and like there's a guy in the middle of the aisle. And, like, the hell, man. The guy like would roll out of the bunk. Some guys rolled out of the top bunk, so there's always like one or two a year where the guy like wakes up and like, what happened, whatever. So as far as that the game and winning, I just winning's great. It's hard. I don't really remember much after winning. I just remember we had some fun on the bus. We had the trophy, and it was great. It was it just. I don't know. I don't really remember too much, to be honest with you. I know we watched the movie because Losey's rule was if you won, you got to watch a movie, and if you lost, you didn't watch a movie. And I remember like the year before, I think it was, went on a West Coast trip, and if you could go 500 on the West Coast trip, that was a pretty good trip for you. And we'd gone like 5-1 or something, and we played Portland the last game, and I think I scored the first goal, and we lost like 10-1 or something. We got pounded. And like, as soon as like 4-1, I'm just trying to get kicked out. So I got in a fight, got another fight, told the ref a few things and whatever. But we had to ride 27 hours. So you play the game. No movie. So you go to bed, no movie, right? No problem. And then you wake up, you're like, hey, maybe watch a movie. Hey, everyone's like, hey, Losey, can we watch a movie? No. A couple other words too. And so 27 hours, no movie, no nothing. I had my Discman, those like I still have it in the garage. I'll take a picture and send it to you. But it was like back in the CD days when you finally had that. When you first had that Discman that didn't skip, but still kind of the anti-shock, whatever. So
yeah. First it was 3 seconds, then it was 5, then it was 7. But it didn't matter when you're jogging. That damn thing skipped all the time.
Yeah. So I remember the bus trips. They were long, and you'd stop, you know, at some little tiny restaurant, and man, we had some of the best meals. There was a good veal cutlet we used to have on the road with the squiggly fries with gravy and stuff. So those are the kind of things I remember. Nothing specifically about winning or anything after the championship. Just winning. It's great. And then you had a long bus ride back.
Well, you got pretty accustomed to winning over the course of your career. Now, from a longevity standpoint, I mean, yeah, you didn't play probably as long as you would have liked, but in the years that you did play professionally, you had some great success. And obviously the first kind of real taste of success came in Colorado during that year that they had that fantastic run. Chris and I were talking about the roster beforehand. You know, winning your first Stanley Cup, I mean, that's something that you probably dreamed about playing street hockey as a kid growing up and had thought about, you know, kind of your whole life. What do you remember about kind of the moment when you realized, you know what, we're going to win this thing?
Well, it was really cool because, you know, we traded for Ray Bourque the year before, and we lost in 7 games to Dallas. And I came from Calgary, and, you know, in Calgary, we're just trying to make the playoffs. And you go to Colorado, and it's your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. So we traded for Ray, and, you know, we lost, and then he decided to come back. And the whole process of it was at training camp was we're finishing first overall. So if there's a game 7, it's in our building, and anything less is unacceptable. So, I mean, it was great. That's the whole thing about it. And I didn't play till game 3 of the second round because Dave Reed got hit with actually Ray Bourque was dumping the puck in and hit Reeder and broke his jaw. And give Reeder all the credit in the world. He only missed 1 game, but I got in and played. I played for like 3 minutes and 42 seconds, I think, or something, or 3 minutes and 52 seconds. But I had 4 shots and I drew 2 penalties. So what I did in that is I bought myself another game. So I was able to play and continue to play. But just the whole winning of all of it is you know, you talk about the players on that team and they were about winning. Like just everything was about winning, and it didn't matter if it was Ray or Joe or Rob Blake or Forsberg or you know, go like take your pick of the players, and they were about winning. And you know what I do remember is just there was so much pressure to win one for Ray, and everything's win one for Ray, win one for Ray. And I just remember, you know, before game 6, we were down 3-2, and everyone was talking about win one for Ray. And so Bob Hardy gave a speech and whatever. Guys were like, all right, sure. And then Ray stands up and was like, listen, you know, I believe in you guys. That's why I came back. And I'm sick of hearing this win one for Ray crap, BS, whatever. He's like, we're going out. We're going to win this game. You're going to win it for yourself because my name's going to be right next to your name. So we're going to go out. We're going to win this game. And we're going home for game 7. We're going to win that game. I can still get chills like talking about it. So, you know, I remember that part of it. And then going into game 7, it was just like we won game 6 pretty handily. And we just had like we knew we were going to win. I guess maybe like we just had that feeling. And, you know, just the leadership, the veteran leadership on that team. And, you know, like I tell this story too, that, you know, Ray Bourque went in there and we're playing against St. Louis. We're going into double or triple overtime, and our line had scored. And I'm playing with Dave Reed and Dan Heino, like 2 really good players. And we'd played like 8 minutes going into like double or triple overtime. So do the math on that. Who's getting how much ice? And not that I need that much ice, but, you know, like guys were dying. And Ray Bourque went into the coach's office, slammed the door, and came out like 2 minutes later and said, everyone's going to friggin' play, be ready. So stuff like that I remember where, you know, a guy wants to win so bad, and we're in the me too, like, or the me now, like everything for me, like, you know, there's always, I don't feel like players are more, I mean, there's still a little bit, but the players are more like, I got to get my points, I got to get my goals and stuff. And, you know, I just really appreciated a guy like that who was going to, you know, he knew he was going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he wanted to win that bad. He told the coach to play him less. So that's kind of the things I remember. And I mean, there's so many stories along the line, but just, you know, the speech he gave and then just winning, like just, I got to do a Hockey Night in Canada interview with Ron McLean, and which was pretty cool. So just stuff like that. And this, like, I saw it online somewhere, and I took some pictures. It was like the last, you know, 30 seconds or whatever it was, like took literally, it felt like it took a half an hour because there was a whistle and, you know, it's 3-1, I think it was, but it's like, you're still not sure. So just stuff like that, just waiting for like you're watching the clock and it's just like taking forever. And there's a whistle and another whistle. So just, I think it's taken a long time, but just things like that, like little things that guys, you know, that people don't realize it's what it takes to win and how bad guys want to win, that they're willing to, you know, play less or do something different. So just things like that stick out to me.
Well, I was telling Crowe before we went live here that it's one of those memories for me watching that game. I remember exactly where I was. We were at my friend Al's place. We were having a Stanley Cup party. We were all cheering for the Avalanche for multiple reasons. I mean, that roster was so stacked at the time, but a lot of Canadian legends. And the big thing, we wanted to see Ray hoist that cup. I remember us all celebrating when it happened. But one of my favorite moments in hockey, there's a couple of them, and somehow they both involve Ray Bourque. One was when he was still in Boston, and he gave up his number. But when Joe passed the cup to Ray to hoist first, like that moment still for me, like that ranks top 5. Like even when I watched it still, I just get chills. And the announcer, when he tells Ray to lift it, just that moment. Did you guys know that if you won it, Joe was going to do that?
No, Joe told me I was going to get it first. No, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're not thinking about that. You're just trying to win. And I knew we had a lead, and I watched that game again, and I watched like the way we played, and there was one good scoring chance where Patty Waugh made an unbelievable save, and it was Patrick Elias that actually got around Ray Bourque of all people, and Patty bailed him out, made an unbelievable save. I think it would have made it 3-2 at the time or something. But yeah, you don't. They probably knew. Like I think Joe being, Sackett being a veteran guy and winning before, but like as a younger guy, you knew Ray was gonna everyone wanted to see Ray get it, but we didn't. We had no idea. We're just trying to win, and then he's like Ray, waited a long time, and you just knew. And yeah, I mean we're happy for him. I mean that guy waited like. I remember in the playoffs too, even like he was such a good guy. Every practice was optional except for the 4-finers, so I had to practice, but whatever, not a big deal. But Ray would come out for every practice. I finally said to him, like Bubba, like guys calling Bubba, like Bubba, what are you doing, man? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, why are you out here? Like you're like 42 years old, man. Take the option. I would. And he's like, listen, first of all, I'm 41. Second of all, if I don't come out and skate, I might not be able to get out of bed tomorrow. So leave me alone. I was like, okay, man. I was just saying, like, I'd take the option. So, but he'd come out, and he could leave whenever he wanted. Like, he could stay out for 5 minutes. So he'd come out for like 15, 20 minutes, do a couple of shooting drills, and then just, go off the ice. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Just to be able to play with guys like that. I mean, I consider myself, even Brandon, I played with so many great players. I have these stories because I got to play with these guys and I guess live my dream, and it could have been better. It could have been worse, but I tell you, there's nothing like winning. There's nothing like what it takes for guys. And, I'm hanging out with, like, I was like 23, 24-year-old kid, and I'd go for beers with Ray Bourque. Like, where do you sign up for that? And like, listen to the stories and stuff. So yeah, just great. I didn't know any of that was going to happen, but, you knew he was going to get it if he was going to be first or 1A or 1B, so deservedly so.
The other big memory I was talking about was when he was still in Boston with his jerseys, quickly mentioning that in further detail, when it was the Phil Esposito retirement ceremony and he gave up 7 and then pulls it off and he's wearing 77. For me, that was a very special moment. For you, out of all the numbers that you wore throughout your career, is there anyone that particularly sticks out?
Of the numbers I wore? I think if I would have worn 22, I would have scored a lot more goals, but I don't know if I would have won. I'm kidding. I went to Colorado. I got 11. I was like, this is great. But I started like as a rookie, in Calgary, the year I made it, like, when you go to camp and like numbers are totally different now, but back then it was like, you're a D-man, you wore 2 through, 7 or 8 or whatever.
That's the way it still is with the Wee Kings, right? I mean, we've still done that traditionally. Yeah. But go on.
Yeah. So no, but that's what I love about the tradition of the Wee Kings and stuff today. But I remember going into camp. So I had the number 7. So I'm like, okay, I got a realistic chance of making the team. And Derek Morris had number 53. So they called us in and they were telling us to, like basically this is a couple months we're living in the hotel. And it's kind of like, hey, you can get a place now, but they can still send you down at any time. So like, hey, Derek Morris, if you want, you can change your number because he had a training camp number. And he's like, no, I'm good. I was like, can I change my number? And the guy looked at me. He's like, no. And I was like, okay. It just 7 felt. I have a wide frame, let's just say, and like a single digit number just didn't. I didn't feel it fit my body good, I guess. So I love 22. I really love that number. And 11, you just whatever. I like the double digit numbers. So yeah, those are the numbers I liked. I wore 19 in Carolina, and that didn't work out good for me. So. I wasn't very Sakic-esque, let's just say that. So 19 is not a good number for me.
when you look at the 2004 Stanley Cup, and we touched on a little bit playing against current Wheat King coach Dave Lowry, and that team again, you talked about Jerome McGinley and Mika Kiprusoff. When you guys, kind of went into the playoffs and you had the roster you did with Marty St. Louis and Vinny LeCavalier and obviously another kind of older veteran and Dave Andrechuk as your captain, did you guys realize in that final, or did you feel like the entire country of Canada was rooting against you because it was that whole USA versus Canada and no team in Canada's won in so long?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't care because I think 3/4 of our roster was Canadian anyway. So
I was going to say, didn't you guys actually have more Canadians than Calgary? I think that year. I think there was.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the thing. But I get it.
Yeah, I didn't. I loved it. Like you're not doing your job if you don't get booed on the road. So I thought it was great. And I played in Calgary when they weren't very good, and there was 13,000 people in the Saddle Dome. So everyone's talking about the Red Mile and all the passionate fans. And we go to the rink, and they're all drinking, a couple hours before the game, and the place is rocking. I'm like, where were you guys in '97, man? Like, this place is a morgue, and like everyone's talking about how passionate the fans in Canada were, and I'm like, I played in front of 12,000 people. You could hear a pin drop, and maybe it's because I was playing. I wasn't very good, but like old passionate Canadian fans. And then I look at, Tampa, and we had 23,000 people, and we had 20,000 on the plaza. And what a lot of people don't realize is there's so many people that moved to Florida from Buffalo, from New York, from Toronto, from Montreal or Ontario, Quebec, whatever, and Alberta. So yeah, I loved it. I loved they were booing me. Like I had to buy, I bought 8 tickets for every game, and my family and friends would go, my parents. When we scored in Game 6, my family was there, and my brother-in-laws were there, and when we scored, it was like, yeah, what do you got to say now? Because you could hear a pin drop, and I was like, my wife was like, shh, don't say it. Like, they'd had a few or whatever, and like, this couldn't end well. Like, this might not end well, so let's just walk out of the building nicely. But yeah, I love getting booed. Who cares? Perfect.
You talked about Drager earlier. One of my favorite things since all this COVID thing started and they started doing all their hits from home is seeing Drager's bookshelf. And I took a snapshot and tweeted on the Wheat King account because he's got the Dinger bobblehead behind him. One of my favorite bobbleheads. What's that like, having your own Wheat King bobblehead?
It's great. It's like you made it. I feel like I made it now. It only took like 20-something years, but when Dilly told me, he's like, yeah, and if we were talking about doing a bobblehead, if you could come back, and I did the Sportsman's Dinner, which was, it's awesome. I felt honored, and to get a bobblehead was, it's great. Like it's, like they did the chins, like the leather. The absurdity of it is that they did the leather chin strap, and so Kluch and I had Colin Kluch, we had the leather chin straps because Ty Domi had them in Winnipeg. But the absurdity was like we'd have these leather chin straps, and the guys in the NHL wear them, so you couldn't rip a guy's helmet off. But we wore visors, and if you're a heavyweight, you took your helmet off to fight. So we'll get these, and I still have the helmet to this day. I still wear it when I coach and then when I play. So yeah, it's awesome just to have a hockey card, to have a bobblehead. It's pretty awesome. So I always joke around, if anyone's having a bad day, you just punch Mini Dinger and just, like take it out every once in a while. Like, hey, you having a good day? Yeah, you having a bad day? No. So, yeah, it's very cool. The poster they did, anything. I appreciate it. It's awesome. Like, yeah, I got a bobblehead, man. I never thought I'd have one. So, and then my kid broke my one kid, he dropped it, so he popped my head off, so I had to glue my head back on. And my other son broke my arm off, so. And I only have so many of them, so I got to make them last. So I had to glue my one. I had to glue the arm back on. I had to glue my head back on, and try to tell my kids these are collector's items. Maybe not for you, but for me. So yeah, it's awesome. I love it. And then so even with Dregs, so I'm watching, and I remember there's one night I woke up. It was like 3 or 3:30, and the baby was crying a little bit. So I turned the TV on, so Dregs is on there, and I'm looking above his head, and I'm like, bobble, what is that? Like, that kind of looks like my bobblehead. So I sent him a message. So I took a screenshot and I circled it and I put arrows, and whatever. And I was like, is that my bobblehead? He goes, oh yeah, it's my prize. I love that. And I'm like, so he's added a couple. He's got, I don't know if you noticed, but he's got 2 other ones now. So I sent him a message and asked him, like, so you're adding to the bobbleheads, but yeah, just you saying that, that's crazy. So that's pretty awesome. The insider has my bobblehead in his mantle, and I noticed it and took a screenshot and was like, hey, who's that guy? So that's awesome.
I thought he had just put it there for when he did our Wheat King hit. I don't have cable out here in the country, so I don't get a chance to watch much of the insider stuff. And when it was up there, I thought, oh, that's neat. He brought the dinger one out for this. And then all of a sudden I realized it's been sitting there all COVID long. So you touched on your sons and their hockey career. Now they're getting up there in age into that kind of teenage kind of hockey kind of breaking point, kind of that fork in the road. As their coach and as their father, what do you see from your sons moving forward? Are they WHL material? Or are they junior A guys? Or are they just having fun?
I don't know. I should be a scout maybe. I don't know. They have the ability to do great things. Let's just say that they're good kids. They work hard. They're passionate. I've injured my body mightily training with them. So because we've been during the whatever you want to call it, the quarantine, I'd take them to work out. We do sprints and worked out better for them than it did me. Let's just say that. So I think they're talented players. They're passionate about the game, and who knows? I just know they have way better hands than I ever did. I wasn't allowed to carry the puck over the blue line my first year, so they're doing backhand toe drags and stuff. I was never allowed to do a toe drag. I just passed the puck to somebody and got it back and took a one-timer. So I don't know. I think if they could go to college and maybe play, that'd be great. But I think they're both talented, passionate kids, and they're really smart. And school is important to us, so they're both honor students, and they're in the advanced program in school. So, look at it as a coach and coaching. I want to coach kids that are passionate and intelligent because they're coachable. And I just tell my kids to, I look at hockey as a life lesson where, be a good person, show up on time, work hard, and be a good listener. So I just try and impress that on my kids. And, I just tell them, like, if you do that, coaches will do anything for you. Like, coaches love the guys like that. And, you people in your past that have coached you or teachers, and, you love that coach or teacher that gives you a chance and believes in you. So, and they're more likely to believe in you too when you are good, when you're coachable. So, I mean, who knows what they could do? I think they're talented players, and it's up to them. They just have to work hard, and who knows? But I still can't cross over to the right. And Kelly McCrimmon, last time I saw him, was like, "You still can't turn right. We're training for you. That's why you hit everybody." And I'm like, I know that. I tell people that. I tell my kids, and I can hide it. I can do one or two crossovers, and that's it. Like going to the left, and you know why? Because when you go for warm up, you always go counterclockwise. So I can cross over to the left really good, and I still say that to this day. So when you do warm-ups, they should alternate, like NASCAR, not just go the one way. You should go the other way. So, yeah, who knows what they can – I rambled on there a little bit, but who knows what they can do. I just I hope they can go as far as they can. And they want to play in the dub, that'd be great. But they just got to get ready for some long bus rides depending on where you're located. Let's just say that because we experienced that.
Do you want to do a little rapid fire? Because we know that Dinger's got to get his boys to the rink at some point here tonight. So we like to just rattle off a couple of quick questions and see what you remember from your playing days or what's been going on. My go-to right now is what's been your kind of quarantine TV binge? Have you been Netflixing anything with the boys or maybe with the wife?
Oh, yeah. We did Ozark again. We did Stranger Things.
I just started Ozark. I just started it, and I just got through the first season, and it is awesome.
He did it.
Yeah.
You just don't know what he
Spoiler
did.
alert.
Okay, great.
You don't know what he did.
No, not yet.
Just kidding. I wouldn't ruin it for you.
That's a great show, though. That's awesome. Sorry, go on.
Marty. Yeah, you're a fan of Marty. So
yes.
Yeah, Ozark's one of them.
Tiger King?
Rescue Me. Yeah, we did watch Tiger King. Yeah, that's Florida in a nutshell, man. It wasn't even filmed in Florida, really, but that's oh my God, yeah, living in Florida, man. It's you had all different walks of life. It was very enjoyable. Really, yeah, I got to bring the mullet back. That was sick. That was like a weird kind of mullet, huh?
You got to start wearing some animal print too around your house.
Yeah, I only wear that after I win, so I got to win something.
What was your favorite rink to play in when you were in the dub?
Oh, Brandon.
On the road.
Brandon was great. Oh, on the road. I did like the old Crush Can in Moose Jaw.
That's what Redden said too.
Yeah, that's what Wade said.
God. Yeah, I was suspended one game, so I sat like 15 rows up and I couldn't see across. And I was like, okay, now why they call it the Crush Can. So I like that. And then I like going out west was cool. We played in Seattle in the smaller, they played in the big rink where the Supersonics used to play. And then So we got in a huge brawl in the smaller rink, and it was great because the fans were just on top of you. So I like that part. And then Portland too, when you'd come out, I remember their song you came out to was Symphony of Destruction. So you'd come out and there's like 15,000 people and the place is rocking. And they had the boards there where if you hit somebody, the boards would literally like, it sounded like you just killed somebody. So those are a few barns. Least favorite is probably Regina because the stands were like 10 feet away, weren't they? Or they're in a new building now, I believe. But yeah, that was probably my least favorite. But those were those other ones.
What was your favorite post-game watering hole / food joint in Brandon? When you'd leave the rink, was there a place you'd go for a slice of pizza or maybe an adult beverage?
I can't say that, can I? No.
I think there's a statute of limitations on that.
I'm kidding. There was so we were going to the hotel in the main strip there. It's called, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it right now. Not the brand new one, but the older one that was by the Houstons there. Remember the Houstons and the...
It'd be the Royal Oak or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a lounge in there. Yeah, the Royal Oak. We used to go in there, and then after about 2 months, we got carded. They didn't realize that we were only 17, so we weren't allowed to go there. And then there was Griff's. There was a place called Griff's Sports Lounge. I don't know if that's still there, but it was.
No.
It was in the golf course there. They had the curling rink below, so we used to go there. And so there's a couple. We weren't allowed to go to the bars, so just a couple lounges here and there. But those were a couple I remember. Griff's was late last year. I think third or fourth year. Griff's was the kind of the spot. So like $5 pitchers or $7 pitchers. Man, it was great.
Some hockey players, especially in playoffs, are incredibly superstitious. Who's the most superstitious player that you've played with? And you remember what their routine was that stuck out in your mind?
Oh, I remember Bobby House would sleep with his stick on the bus. So maybe put it in the garbage can. I'm like, when he wasn't scoring, I'm like, okay, so you're putting this in the garbage can, then you're sleeping with it in your bunk. I don't know if that's very sanitary. So I don't really remember these guys who were too superstitious. Like Marty St. Louis had the same shirt. He had the same undershirt since his Vermont days. So he had like an old, the old blue undershirts. So his was like, it was falling apart when we won. It was like torn everywhere and he kept wearing it. So
he wear like every game, like even the regular season, or was it a playoff thing?
Practice. No, every game, every practice. The thing was hanging on for dear life. So yeah, that was maybe one thing. And then I don't know if it's a superstition thing, but a really good story. So when we won in 01, a guy by the name of Sean Boudin we played with, he's a character, let's just say that, likes to wear his Birkenstocks, his jean shorts and stuff, and he's a bit of a throwback. So he'd heard somebody wore their equipment for 24 hours after they won, or 23 hours. So he was going to wear his equipment for 24 hours. So he didn't change for 24 hours. So he literally went to the bar with full gear, skates and everything, like no skate guards. And guys were like, Jesus Christ, man, what are you doing? And it was great. And it was like, oh my God, because we're like, what are you doing? He's like, I heard someone wore their equipment for 23 hours. And so he wore his for 24. And his wife's the nicest lady, Sherry. And so like, Jesus, Sherry, like, what'd you do when he went home? Did he take his stuff off? She's like, no. I'm like, you let him, like, we're like, you let him in the bed? She's like, no, I had to draw the line there. I'm like, you're not getting into bed with that stuff. So 24 hours he wore his gear. So it wasn't really a superstition thing, but he'd heard, oh my God, like, how are your skates, man? He's like, I don't know. I'm not going to wear them for like 3 months, but like no skate guards, the old CCM. He's like, it was okay. But he's like, God, the next day my feet were throbbing so bad. Because, you have a few. And anyways, so yeah, I don't know if it's a superstition thing, but yeah.
Where do you keep your Stanley Cup rings? Are they on display?
Nope. They're in a place you wouldn't really think they would be. Let's just say that. I can't tell you. Somebody could break in and steal my stuff.
Yeah. And his address is...
Yeah. No, I keep them in a very inconspicuous place. I don't have them in the boxes. I keep them in these little Tiffany things. Those little Tiffany pouches or whatever. They're like little kind of velvety pouches. I keep them in there. So if I travel around, I don't really wear them, to be honest with you, because most of my fingers are crooked and broken, as you can see. And the one time I was wearing impact and safety gloves, look what I did to my finger. So
yeah, I was going to bring that up earlier. Kind of noticed that. I was going to ask. That looks like a gnarly injury.
It's finally coming off. Yeah, it's not bad. It just looks worse than it is. I mean, you can't make it look at it. My hand modeling career is way out the window anyway. So
great. So again, those that are just listening to the podcast or right now on the YouTube page, because we had some video issues, the audio is kind of cracky. So I just dumped the video for now, but we're still recording this, so we're gonna post the full video up later on YouTube. But again, most people are listening, so they can't see. But yeah, so one of Dinger's fingers is very mangled on the camera right now.
Sorry, yeah.
Completely lost his nail.
Half nail. Yeah, it's a half
nail. It looks worse.
I can show you my big toenail too if you want, but that might make people a little queasy because I blocked a shot in 04 and my big toe, like the nail on your big toe, and if you lose it, you can't, like you can't keep it. So every year or so, my nail comes off. So I call it my wooden toe, and I show kids.
So for 16 years, every year after when the nail grows, it just falls off. Pretty
much, yeah. Well, my skates are, I kind of still wear my skates tight, so I think it's like pushing on it. But yeah, it was like I blocked a shot pretty bad, and it just it falls off.
Who shot that shot? Do you remember?
Oh, no idea.
So because somebody's caused you foot pain for 16 years, I think I'd remember that guy's name.
Doesn't even hurt. No, it doesn't even hurt. It just looks terrible. So I just pull it out every once in a while to gross people out. I won't show you the toe because it's pretty bad. But I'll show you the. I'll show you the scar. I don't know if you can see that scar there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We can see that.
Yeah, that happened. That happened like game 2. Hit Andrew Ferentz, I think it was, and his skate came down on the top of my foot and it sliced open my laces. So I was skating, hobbling to the bench because my laces were all cut. Went to the trainer. I was like, Razor, hey man, I need new laces. Like, okay, so I took my skate off. And the top of my foot was like open up like a toggle. He's like, oh my god, I think you need stitches. So. I'll show you that one, but I won't show you the wooden toe. Unless I was going to
ask, what was your worst injury in your hockey career? Would that be up there?
No, it wasn't even bad. It just with anything on the top of your foot, it just hurts because you can't tie your skate, so you got to wait till it goes numb. But I don't know. Like, there's not concussions obviously are scary, but I didn't really have I dislocated my shoulder. I had tore my MCL 3 times, and probably the worst is I have a back issue now where I have a disc sitting on the nerve, my L4, L5, so I got to get to procedure where they burn the nerve. So that's probably the worst one because back pain is the worst. Like nerve pain, I could take any pain, but nerve pain is the worst by far. So I didn't really have, I dislocated a finger one time during a game. It came on the bench, and my finger was pointing up, and I showed the trainer, I'm like, hey, Rambo, I think my finger's messed up. And he looked at it, he's like, oh my God, let me get the doctor. I'm like, just pull my finger, man. He's like, oh, let me get the doctor. I'm like, just pull my finger. I'm not going to, the joke, I'm not going to fire, man. So he goes and gets the doctor. Doctor comes down. He's like, yeah, I think your finger's dislocated. He goes, I guess. He goes, pulls it out, pops it in. So, yeah, just a couple little things. Nothing too nasty. Well, the broken nose from Reggie's slap shot. So, but that's his fault because you shouldn't be shooting at 97, 98 miles an hour in junior. So.
My last rapid fire question was just: there's got to be one goal in junior that sticks out above the rest that you scored. What was it?
One goal.
Is there one goal that comes back as a Viking that you just remember the play? Do you remember what happened?
Well, I think my 40th. Because McCabe was going for 20, and he was at 19. So, and I was at 39, and so he wasn't passing. We got a power play. Losey was good. He was putting us out there. Caber wasn't passing. I'm like, you're a dick, man. Pass the puck. He's like, no way, man. So he scored in the second period, early in the second. And I remember guys talking after, Losey's like, I don't think Dinger's going to score. I don't think he's going to get it. It went into the third period, and we were playing, I think it was Rocky Thompson. We were playing Medicine Hat. I could be wrong, but so I'm in the corner, and Darren Ritchie's like, hey, Dinger. And I'm like, no. I go, here, watch this. He told me the story out. I didn't even want to say it. I was like, here, watch this. So I rolled out of the corner, took it to the net, and scored. And he's like, you're an a-hole, man. Why'd you, look at this, watch this. And so I guess my 40th. But it took till the third period, probably halfway through the game at least. So I guess the pressure, you want to score and whatever. So that was a memorable one. I think my first one, too, because my first year I must have had 12 breakaways, and I couldn't score, and it was just infuriating. Then you finally score. So, but yeah, I think the 40th was a big one. So I still have the puck and stuff like that. So I think it's, I was lucky to play with 2 good guys, man. I had a few go off my shin, and a bunch off the back of my calf. So the amount of times Darren Ritchie hit me in the back of my calf with a slap shot, I deserve to score 40. So look at it that way.
Well, Dinger, this was awesome. I know you got to get to your boys to some hockey. I guess we'll give you a chance. What are you doing now? Just talk a little bit about the gloves that you're peddling and what that's done for you.
Yeah, just selling impact safety gloves. So we sell all different kinds. We do masks and stuff. So Stealth Gloves is the company. So we have cut resistant gloves, leather gloves, impact gloves, gauntlets, mitts. So we have all different kinds of gloves. You can go on the website, stealthgloves.ca. Yeah. So just selling gloves, and the 1 or 2 times I don't wear them.
I was going to say, and this is a perfect PSA to say that you were not wearing your Stout gloves, and you probably should have been at that time.
Oh my God. So the people could see it after. So yeah, that was closing so my buddy's got this old, we're social distancing on the driveway, and he had a few too many, and he left his lawn chair. So I was closing his lawn chair, and I did that. And then I was cooking steaks, and then I wasn't wearing gloves. I didn't put an oven mitt on. I got a blister. I got a grease blister. So the 2 times I didn't wear gloves. So I'm getting soft in my old age. I could tell people the absurdity. I used to draw my gloves to punch people in the face, and then now I sell gloves, and my fingers are all crooked, and I can't, so, but whatever. So I sell gloves now. So buy Stealth Gloves, because diapers are expensive. So is youth hockey.
So I was going to say, so is hockey. That's right. All right, Dinger, really appreciate you taking time on your Monday night here to talk to us. All the best, and we hope to catch you down the road here sometime shortly.
Yeah, no problem. I got to say one last thing.
Yeah.
How come it took till number 28 to have me on? My feelings are hurt. You had Reggie on.
29. Oh, sorry. It's even worse. 29.
29.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's a rough go. Sorry, bud.
Some Hall of Famers on
there. There actually is a couple. One of the reasons why, we'll be honest, one of the reasons why we did push back is just because, as you mentioned, we had you here a couple of years ago at the Sportsman's Dinner. So a lot of the fans that, of course, listen to this are those same fans. So we thought we'd space it out a little bit, but especially after talking the last little bit, we're like, okay, it's time. And plus, I guess we're waiting for your injury for you to help show off, to show how tough you still are.
Wait, I got to add to it. I started a poll. I found a picture of Dave Lowry's playoff beard, and I started a poll on Twitter. I tagged you in it, Dinger. As of right now,
did you really already?
Dave Lowry's leading the poll 70% to 30% over who had the better playoff beard, you or Dave Lowry. So you got some catching up to do.
He deserves it.
He deserves it.
He deserves to win that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks a lot, Dinger. Really appreciate it. Take care, and good luck getting the kids there to hockey.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, there we go. That is Chris Dingman joining us here tonight on the Weekly Harvest. Again, this is episode 29, available at qcountryfm.ca. Q Country, today's best country. Catch them live at 91.5 FM. Live streaming Alexa, Google Play. If you got the Radio Player Canada app, you can get that and like 1,000+ other stations all across the country. So keep informed. We're not the only podcast on that site as well. Of course, the Westman News Update is on there. People can get their local update each and every weekday at 1 o'clock. So encourage you to go and check that out. Crow, any more news and notes before we quickly wrap up here, episode 29?
Nothing. I now that I'm back from Ontario, I got to sit here for 2 weeks, so I got plenty of time. I'll come up with some new news and notes next week.
You've had quite a time. So appreciate everybody tuning on in, and we will be in touch regarding next week, episode number 30. Really appreciate you tuning on in tonight, and we'll talk to you again. Cheers.
Be sure to follow Q Country and the Wheat Kings on Twitter and Facebook for all your Brandon Wheat Kings news. Thanks for listening to the Weekly Harvest.